Throughout time, man has always had a search for truth. That search has occurred in many different ways. Sometimes the search has happened through philosophy. Search can also be found through religion. And in the modern Western world, we put a lot of value in finding truth by searching using what we call science. And the method that is used by scientists to discover truth is called, it's kind of a simple, straightforward name, the scientific method. A lot of teachers might have you believe that, if you deviate from this method, then your experiment is invalid, or that the scientific method is the only way that you can find truth. But really, this method is just kind of a guideline to the way that logic works. Our human brains are wired to be fairly logic, and this method isn't really hard and fast. It's just more of a general concept of how science is done. Now, there's a part of this method that needs to be done correctly in order for the experiment to be valid. So let's just kind of go through a list of what are the parts of the scientific method. And the first part is by using your senses and observing the world. Most humans are naturally curious, and this will lead you to ask a question. Doesn't have to be a really profound question, could be any question. Why is the sky blue? Where are my socks? If I make a lot of money, will I be attractive to women? Those kind of things. After the question is formulated, the next natural progression in the series is to do some background research. And that research can happen in many different ways. The background research could be oral. You ask a lot of different people questions about the topic. Do you know why the sky is blue? Have you ever seen the sky a different color? Those type of things. You can check out text. You can check out articles written by different people who have already looked at parts of that question. You can even now, with the advent of the internet, really speed up your ability to do research. So part 2 would be do some research, do background research. The next step, once you've done some research and you think you have a little bit of knowledge on the topic or the question that you're asking, it's now time to make a guess. Why is the sky blue? My guess is the sky is blue because of the way that the light is reflected. So this guess is an educated guess. It's not a hunch. It's not just something you pull out of a hat. It's educated because you've done some research. This would be called constructing a hypothesis. Hypothesis, thesis, the main statement in like a paper, and then hypo, that which precedes. So a hypothesis, an educated guess is sometimes what people call it. This is the part in this method which, if this is really going to lead to truth, and you really believe in science, needs to happen next and needs to occur in a very specific way. So you've asked a question, you've done some research, you've constructed your hypothesis, and now it's time for maybe one of the most exciting parts in science, and one of the more fun parts, is to test your hypothesis. By doing an experiment. And so in this part, classically, we call this an experiment. Doesn't mean you need to be in a lab. You don't have to wear a white lab coat. You could even do this on your own at home. Even 5-year-olds form hypothesis and they test experiments. Now when you're done, again, this experiment part needs to be done in a specific way. We're not going to go into that here in order for it to be considered valid. After you've tested your experiment, the next step in this method would be you look at your data. You've probably heard this before, and you draw a conclusion. This conclusion can be as simple as, was my hypothesis correct? Yes, my hypothesis was correct, or no, my hypothesis was wrong. It doesn't need to be a whole restatement of everything. It can just be a simple statement such that other people can look at it and use that information to perhaps, again, come back and ask another question. And then the last step, which seems to be skipped a lot in high school classes, maybe not at the collegiate level or at the professional level, is once you've done all of this and you've written it down and you've come to a conclusion, it is time to report your results. Maybe in a journal, maybe on the internet. And what this reporting of results allows people to do, move this right back up here, is it aids them in doing their background research. And it might even take you further. You might even read something and it might cause you, based on observation, to ask an even different question. So really, science is the search for truth, just like philosophy and religion. It has a specific method to find that truth. It is not the search for answers. Actually, by doing science, all of your questions don't get answered. Unfortunately, by doing science, more questions are posed. It's actually a self-defeating idea. And that's why some people love science, and that's why some people absolutely abhor science and would never go into it. So I hope this helped you out a little bit. Just a few thoughts on what we like to call the scientific method. Again, you don't need to get too caught up into it. It's just a natural way that a logical person in the Western world works their way through a question.